today.
You're welcome. Nice to see you, Oliver.
Nice to see you too. I greatly appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me.
Nice to see you.
So let's tell our viewers, who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Miguel Doforo and I'm the Creative Director at MD Creatives in St. Helens.
Amazing. So tell me more about MD Creatives.
So MD Creatives is born out of MD Productions. So you're looking at a 20-year history of what we've done. And I'm saying right now it's the emancipation of MD Creatives, because it was all that learning that I took from what I'd done in almost 20 years to now go, what is it do we want to do? So the format is still very much the same in terms of the business is split into three parts. So we have our main focus is our community engagement with our Blank Canvas project that we use through RCIC, where we use all forms of creativity to engage and inspire and improve lives. And that is open to anyone of any age right across the city region. And then we have our second part, which is our MD Creatives Academy, which was the main part of the growth and the change, that we can offer a whole host of creative pathways from accredited to non-accredited programs. And we believe that we all learn in different ways, and it's celebrating that and promoting it through our different creative pathways. And then the third part is where that extension of MD Productions comes. So our commercial arm of all the work that we do, you know, locally, nationally and internationally, is done in that part of the business, and is very strong in doing that. So part of the creatives growth was that we talk about all what MD Productions done when we'd go on these road shows, but people would go, but I don't dance. And then we'd like, it's not just about dance, but because MD Productions is so successful for dance and it's who I am, we weren't engaging with anyone else when there were so many opportunities for them to be here and what they can do in creative industries on and off stage. So it just made perfect sense of this rebrand and the growth and who are we and the change and being in St. Helens is actually then, you know, the dance is the icing on the cake. It's the way we put our social messages out. It's how we promote what we do. But with creatives, it takes a million things for that 30-second performance even to happen. And you know, we've got creatives who do that. So it's how do we celebrate them and how do we let other people know, you know, it isn't just about dance, without saying we don't dance anymore, because we do.
Yeah.
But we also do a million things. So that part of now MD Commercial sits in that part. So the structure is still kind of very much the same, but rebranded as the creatives to celebrate who we are as creatives, and we can take them on that creative journey and they can enter into the company at any level, whether they come right into the commercial world or they come into the community arm and might want to stay there. That might be enough for someone. That's just what we want to do. So yeah, that's what we do.
Well, amazing. All sounds, there's always a lot going on. Obviously, I know from working with you for 2 or 3 years now, you know, there isn't a time that anyone stops.
No.
I want to talk about some of your greatest achievements.
Okay. You're one of them.
Yeah, and I just want to, obviously I know, you know, you've been on Britain's Got Talent multiple times. You've worked with the likes of Michael Jackson. Yeah, so tell me about the first time you was on Britain's Got Talent and the whole process and emotion.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, that was me most important time. Like, it was not driven by ego or a world of social media, or we were raw. You know, we had nothing other than passion and fire, and they're the most important ingredients. Like, the second time we were on, it was different for a personal reason based around Lauren. But the first time, like, I felt like we were all so grateful, like in a way that you've never felt before, because we'd never experienced anything like it. And we were in this rundown studio that was home, you know, other than where we are in St. Helens now. I've never been in a building that has felt like that. And you know, we were the first act to ever step foot on that stage, the first act to ever go through to the live semi-finals. We opened the first show, and it was so much of that learning. And I think it was it was about being appreciative of that, like everything. And I think when we didn't go all the way to the final, I think that's why it hurt so bad the way it did. I remember my kids being so broken driving home from London. You know, there were so many things said, like the phone lines weren't open, they couldn't get through. Radio City got Simon Cowell live on the radio to challenge him over the phone lines, to say we know ourselves we were ringing and we couldn't get through. And they kept us in London for 3 extra days to try and fix the situation until ultimately they said, you know, sorry, you're having to go home. But beyond grateful, like it was a massive learning and a huge opportunity. And I felt privileged that I could give that to the people who danced for me at that time.
Yeah. So was it for more of the experience than anything?
It was more about finding ourselves. I feel like the world wasn't open the way it's open now. Ollie, when you talk about mental health and abuse and being who you want to be, the world wasn't there, but we were. And that's what the makeup was. We didn't paint just makeup on because we felt like putting makeup on our faces. That was weeks of talking about emotion and who are we and what do we... It wasn't just like, let's draw the circle. Not at all. Shan spent like so much time. I think it was Sarah Shields she'd done first. It was about a thought and emotion and a feeling. It wasn't just like, my face is going to be red. Even down to the costumes, like we talked about the feeling. They understood like expression and emotion and different things in a way that the world wasn't doing then. So it was about finding ourselves, all of us then.
Yeah, so you mentioned about Lauren before on the second time it was on Britain's Got Talent. So who's Lauren?
So Lauren Spencer, you know, I've been talking about this on social media. She is the blueprint of MD in whatever format we sit in, whether it's creatives, productions. Before that was MD Productions, we were Embryo. We had a little group going and started stepping into this world, and Lauren is the blueprint of all of that. So she came to me as a young child, as one of our first kids to ever come through the door. And I said it on social media the other day, she is the most genuine, authentic person that, you know, I still have in my life till today. Like, Lauren's the only person who ever done Britain's Got Talent 3 times. She's done every single class that I've had. Every show, you know, it's been part of the whole lot of it and never changed. Like, when any person come through, like, she become my personal assistant, you know, at the end stage of when she was with us. And never changed. She had time for every single person who come through that door. It's a her value, you know, it's just incredible. And I say to the creatives who are here now, who don't know Lauren, like, that is what you inspire to be. Like, she worked their way from the back row to the front, you know. I never complained, you know. There was times when I moved the age gap of what our company dancers were. And Lauren was in company at that time, and she had to come out of company and lost a great opportunity. And she was upset and hurt about it, but she didn't start, you know, become ego about it or ranting or whatever else. She was like, well, no, that was his decision, and I'm now going to push forward. Like, I made it, you know, she's the lifeblood and well deserved of what this company is. You know, if I was ever to use a reference of how an individual should be, how they treat each other, what they stand for, their values and morals, she is it. And within that, after we come off BGT the second time, unfortunately, Lauren was shot in the head in an accident. When you feel that from someone who is that much of an influence on your business and the people around you, and is the most loving person that you can imagine, the pain that I felt and everyone else, it's bizarre that I should be in St. Helens now, because I was in St. Helens when I got the call what had happened to Lauren and rushed home. And it was devastating. And then to see someone rebuild themselves and then inspire a group of people, like, when we danced that dance, and I retaught it to the creatives here not so long ago with this story, because there's dance and then there's dance with feet. Like, you can't teach that in a way. Like, you either connect and find your own purpose and they don't care about us to dance, or you don't.
Yeah.
you don't just dance it. And I had to go back, and I took responsibility for that. I had to go back and teach them the dance in the way it was made, not in Cultivate. And even dancers who I've worked with for the last 4 to 5 years. So Jess Smith, for instance, I praise her all day, every day. She hadn't even danced it and she was amazing at it, but it wasn't a dance. And then to see it elevated to something else was incredible. And I took responsibility for that, that I maybe wasn't delivering in that authentic way, because the world had changed, but that didn't mean I had to change. And that was part of the growth of who we are. So yeah, that whole dance was based around Lauren. And then, she obviously comes up here to the creatives with massively great friends. It's great to see her like that. But it was refreshing to me to go back in the studio and teach them it like that. I think that's where my energy probably switched again into what was important, I think.
Yeah. So what would you class your rock bottom as?
Oh God. It's been like different times, but so I'd say the last 10 years, I'd say from BGT in 2009, we came out of Dagenham Road. So that was our home at that point. And we've had other homes since, and that was mixed around growth and fallen. So we had a massive partnership with Kids Company, who I praise to this day. The learning I had from that partnership was unbelievable. It just answered that everything that I wanted to do, because I seen it in my eyes that creativity and art does this, and it helps people. And I couldn't articulate myself in the way I can now. Yeah. But Camilla got it and understood what I was saying. So when you take of a rock bottom, so Dagenham Road was like when a home breaks. Like, yeah, that was difficult. Kids Company fallen, so we'd gone through this massive growth then, and they went. So I treaded on, and tried to push a business in that way, but didn't have that support system around me. And we got it to a point at the Tapestry, but crashed and burnt. And we probably took the last of trying to survive from the fall of being in the partnership with Kids Company. And the weight of all that, but it's just so hot. That was just a different type of like low point, of where we were. And I felt like then that was, and only recently, I think like that was putting the bow around a 10-year, we talk a lot about emancipation, don't we? And being in that cocoon. And I think that was it. I think that was the 10 years of what we were as MD Productions was over, at that point in the Tapestry. And I couldn't see the light of what that was trying to tell me at that point. And thanks to some amazing people, as you know, from Signature Living, and they gave us a home while I got myself together. And then obviously Paul from here, who's our landlord from Team Nico, helped me massively in look at this. You begun to see the light, and I think I was able to find a spark from them 10 years. So it wasn't just that, I think it was a knock-on of effect of Dagenham Road, Kids Company, then the Tapestry. And then it was like, I was weak. Like, yeah. Well, you see me, didn't you? Like, I was there, but I wasn't there. I wasn't coherent. It was just lots of my own self-development when you talk about mental health and everything else, that I had to go and do that soul searching. I'd been on this whirlwind of good and bad, learning mistakes over this time, that I had to go and sit and answer to myself of like, you preach this to everyone else, you need to go and have that conversation with your own self of where did you mess up and where did you go right, and what was the learning, what was the growth in all of that. And that's a tough place to go in. We spoke about this a lot. It's hard, but that's where the growth comes. That is when you put yourself in that position and you are Michael Jackson says, the man in the mirror, when you ask yourself them questions, you can't make excuses. You know, you have to face what has happened in this time, and then what are you going to do about it? And it was never going to stop, but I felt like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I just couldn't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
You know,
So
but
obviously, personally, in your, you know, in your personal life, you know, going through so many times where you, as you said before, you was there but you weren't there. How did it feel, kind of, you know, going through them experiences, kind of being in a bad place, you know, with not being there? Did you ever kind of feel going into work as if it was pointless?
I didn't feel pointless because I could see I think I could see the results, what it was doing with people, but I didn't have the energy to. I could just about get myself in there. So to do what I'm doing now, that pause has saved its pay. I had to fall and crack and accept that, because I was going, but I wasn't coherent in what was. I just wasn't present in that, and you can't deliver what I want to deliver and do and achieve in that state of mind. So it was just about holding the foundations together, really. And what got me through it was you know, the results of seeing that people were still benefiting from what I was doing. And my mum, you know, I just used to look at it and think, you've sacrificed too much for me to start cracking now. There's a solution to this, you know. People have built up businesses, and I ended up in the best place possible. It's Signature Living, because Lawrence Kenwright had started again. So I'd look at, you know, you were there, innit? I'd look at these places and think, well, and hear him speak and everything else and think, well, you built the time I've spent with Simon Cowell or anyone else like Richard Branson. These entrepreneurs have done this. So I was like, you want what they've got. And so you're going to have to go through this process. They did not stop. So that helped.
Yeah. So what did you kind of, obviously you said before of, you know, self-development, what kind of things did you do to, you know, to make it worth the struggle of going into work, to kind of, as if you're like putting on this other person? How did you kind of get through that emotion?
Yeah, I don't even think it was about putting on as another person, because I was that numb and muted. There was no emotion to it, you know. And as I said, see, that was probably reflecting back to Danon Road at that point. The change came being in this building and going back to me and the music. I'm finding that so when I was a kid, and obviously now in a professional aspect, I understand why I was doing this. But when I was a kid, I'd go in my room and dance. So as you know, I'm not I'm a self-taught dancer.
Yeah.
And I would go in my room to dance and find myself. And it was only reflecting back as an adult that I was doing that to make myself feel better. And I would be uplifted in my room, and then I'd go out and see my mates, and they wouldn't know. I'd just made a concert for 2 hours. But I felt better. And when I didn't do that, I didn't feel good. And I remember being in here thinking, I need to do that. And obviously the song I always go to is If by Janet Jackson. Even if I'm in the darkest place, I can connect with the song, and I dance that dance over and over and over and over and over again until I'm going to say I'm going to feel like me, but I'm a different person with them lessons. So, but something came that made me love dance in a way I hadn't since the second time on BGT. I hadn't felt. I'd done the classes and created things, but I'd never felt that attachment and bond to anything from that BGT in 2009. Everything else became commercial, or like there was no substance. There was just nothing. I wasn't present in the music. Whereas now, and that's something positive I took from lockdown, is that I'm just in there with the music. And when I was in Denham Road, you know, the business wasn't as big as it is now. So I could go in there and just be that free and just dance because I wanted. And it wasn't like what's on trend or who's doing what, or we've got to do better on a TV show or any of these things. It was just like my kids at the time used to say, all the tracks were like tracks that people didn't know. They were off albums that it'd be track 7 and 8, and you know, but we'd find something in it, or like the Prince stuff or whatever. It wasn't stuff he'd be playing on the radio, or like Drew Hill, some of these things, or even the Michael Jackson tracks wouldn't be the tracks that were in the chart. It was the ones we'd find on the album, and the kids then just connected with it, and we just danced because we want, and that was gone. I think once we stepped into a commercial world, and it was evident on the third time in BGT, that's what we were. You know, we got in by the scrape of our teeth. And that should have been a warning sign that I wasn't being true to who I am as a person. Not that I'd change it, because, you know, I wouldn't be able to talk like this now, but I think going back to what you'd asked, that person and more so has come back, and I don't think I've seen him in 10 years.
Yeah. So how does it feel knowing that, you know, it's refreshed, you feel like you are kind of back on track? How does that make you feel?
I feel alive. I feel like when an artist is doing an album and they're like pulling it together, like, so I would be relating it to myself as like first time around for us. So obviously I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. Michael Jackson had Off the Wall and he was like dead successful with it. And it was amazing and everything else, but he knew there was more, and then come Thriller. I feel like that's where I am in it, to try and put it in simple terms. It's like, I have the knowledge of, you know, you learn from your mistakes as hard as it was, you know, that's why you can't change anything. So I have that knowledge now, and that's where I feel like I am, and I feel like I can stand next to people and say, please don't give up ever. Like, I'm really mean it than just a conversation, you know, when people go through challenging times. I went through a challenging time, and I feel like I can now say, not, you know, we're not even open yet within this lockdown of what's going on, but we're going to be. But I can see it there. So I feel like I can say to people, please don't, like, just don't ever give up, like, as hard as it gets, because it was hard. Like, I can't even put it into words, but I feel like I can say, don't. And that's give me another spark. I want to go and find other creatives and people and say, you know, that thing you want to do, just do it. Please do it. Just keep going. Just keep going. You know, surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I've learned by surrounding myself by the right people. You know, obviously since kind of, you know, me starting my business and the journey I've been on, you know, it's been a whole 5-year process from starting high school to, well, I could even say it's been a longer process from primary, you know, and the whole journey, and now surrounding myself with the people I want to be like, and, you know, that you inspire to. It is such a key thing to kind of put your mind to keep you going, because one day you will be what that person has or what you want.
Yeah, and you know, you have to be true to yourself within it. You have to find who is you, but take that inspiration, you know, from them. And it's important to me that you get the real side from people. You know, it has to be, when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. And it's important that you say that. You know, I'm really active on social media at the minute about being positive, because that's where I am. However, I will still keep reminding people in there that I've just come out of a 3-year hole at one stage, you know, of something, and I'm embracing this new celebration of where we are. I have a lot of work to do, but I actually have 20 years of knowledge of what worked and what didn't. And it's about this time, how do I do it right? That's also where the growth is, because you can make mistakes once, but if you do them again, you never learn your lesson, you know. You
Yeah.
put yourself in that position, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of people say to other people and, you know, crowds that are struggling, people say speak out. So my question to you is, what other advice would you give to people that are struggling?
Well, I'd say it's okay not to be okay. You know, if you feel like crap today, then you have to be in it. That doesn't mean don't do nothing about it, but it's okay. That's part of the process. It's like a grieving and a loss and a change. It's, you know, whatever's been the trigger of it, or multiple triggers, then you have to deal with all the emotions. You can't put a plaster on it, because at some point it's gonna explode.
Yeah.
So I think accept that I don't feel good today, and also talk about it. So like for me, when I started saying to people, so my sister, Georgina, as you know, and my cousin Leanna, are probably the closest people I have in my life. So when I started saying, I can't cope, I feel bad, they were like, as much as they were there for me, they were flabbergasted hearing it come out of my mouth, because I'm always like, let's be positive and do whatever. And that's great. But you also have to acknowledge that I don't feel good today. Like, I don't feel good in where I am. That was a shock to some people, you know, to hear that. And I think that it's important that you say that, because then you start to heal because you said it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's all right. It's actually all right that you're embarrassed, the business has collapsed, you know, you're struggling, it's difficult, you know, you're losing a team, all these different things. It's actually all right to go through that process, you know. And that's what I was saying to you at the start of this, about when you have to have them honest conversations with yourself. And I think that's how we've managed to come out of it, because as hard as it was, I had to have them and go, where did you go wrong? You know, and what would you do?
Yeah. I know even I found it hard, you know, obviously from when being with you in the tapestry and kind of seeing everything just disappear. And obviously us having conversations, you know, when we'd be in the car and stuff like that, you know, and you just kind of accepting that, you know. And it was because obviously, yeah, as you just said, you are like, get up and go and be positive, but then seeing you like break down was hard. It was really hard to see, because you don't expect them people to be like that.
No, but it's important that the people know that, you know, I can't expect my kids to drive forward, you know. And I say kids, I mean everyone in general. I just call everyone the kids. And it's like, I can't expect them then to start being positive and everything else if they don't know that it's okay to hate, you know, because that's part of human nature, you know. It just took me a while to be able to do that.
Yeah. So did it, obviously, you know, it said it was kind of hard to open up, but once everything was out there and people understood what was actually going on, did you, how did that make you feel?
It took a while, but after a while, it felt a relief. There was nowhere to go but up. My mum used to always have conversations with me and saying, "There's only so far down you can go, you know, in life. And you're not the only one, you know." And it wasn't just my mum saying it; was some of my other close relatives. Um, and then it was just finding that little bit of a spark. It's like a grieving process of loss, you know, and you of all them things, and then you begin to heal. And it was about being honest with myself, you know. You have to take responsibility. It's my business, you know.
Yeah.
I had to be able to say that didn't work, you know. You took wrong corners and lanes and everything else, and they didn't work, you know. But now I can say that, and the lessons there, and now I feel so passionate about it, be able to tell other people that, because I felt it, I've lived and breathed it, you know. I feel like this is a, you know, I'll get it right in these next 20 years.
Yeah. So what's next for you now?
Yeah. So I've been about the sustainability, you know. Now we can't deliver on any of our contracts or funded outcomes or anything like that right now, and I've accepted that, you know. It is what it is. But so I got over that, and I was like, okay, so what can I do in this time? So I'm always drawn to the creative, as you know. And I'm not saying I haven't been creating in here, because I have. I've enjoyed creating more than, as I said to you before, in the past 10 years. I really have loved hearing the music and finding the songs, and I can't wait to teach them. However, I've spent so much time in developing the business, and that was the underpinning knowledge, what was missing in the past. And people around me at the time did try and advise me, but Miguel knew best, and I always are, because I seen it as my own insecurities. When you look at academia and education, I just wouldn't have it, like. And and to some extent, I completely, I champion this. We do all learn in different ways. I just had to find a different way of putting that underpinning knowledge into. Now, you think of all the stuff we've done in 20 years, yeah, people know we've done these things, but they don't. There was no evidence of the outcomes of monitoring, evaluation, and all this stuff, because I just wanted to create the next show. Well, we knew what we were doing and helping people, and it was great being in there. But to sustain the business and prove and to look for yourself, the distance that you're traveling, is this working? I have that now. I've spent a year developing work around the curriculum in Ofsted. Everything's being monitored and evaluated, the safeguarding. I always wanted a key work support here that could do a whole wraparound therapeutic care, which I'd learned from Kids Company. I now have that with the right systems in place, and delivering it on our terms, that we can now do this. And I wanted it in other buildings that we've been in, but there wasn't the right skill set around it to do it. I didn't know what I know now, and that's why now I do have here. It's the starting of that, my own blank canvas in it. So it's about that growth for me now. It's about the sustainability, and instead of jumping to, it's okay to say right now I'm going to pause and not do that, or I just want to do one thing. Whereas I always felt like I had to have 50 things on the go to feel like I was being successful, and that was just chaos, absolute chaos. But that's self-development and learn. So now I've really someone took it out of my hands. We can't deliver right now. I can't, and we're not going to fully open until September. There is no physical way we're going to, and then you don't know what's going to happen. So what I've had to do is I've had to look, and I'm so grateful for that. I've took this time to all them things that we were missing as MD Productions. I have them as the creatives with all of that learning to now go, this is, I'm going to be 42 years of age in a couple of days. I was 21, 22 when I set up MD. Obviously, I didn't know what I know now, and the world wasn't where it is, So, and even when, Kids Company felt that was just survival, we had to just survive in what we needed to do. And then I think with this pause, it's given me that time to really reflect and look back over it and journal it, and look at things and then go, right, what are you going to do? So I'm very much about the sustainability and structure, that the bits that I would normally pull away from because I felt like I couldn't do them, actually I can. I'll put them into my way of doing them, of bullet points and my maps and everything else, and then I'll commission an expert to turn it into the document that government read in the way they want it. But that hasn't lost my flavour or passion, because I'll go and deliver it, but I'll give it to them in a way that they understand. And that was learning as well, because they don't learn or come from my cultural background or any of this, but I don't come from theirs, but we need each other. So I had to go, and I want to do it my way, but I have to give you it in your way.
Yeah, I totally understand. I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I do greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences and your story and about mental health.
It's amazing to see how you've grown and to chat to you like this, and to see, it's a proud moment to see that evolution of what has happened in them 3 years. And when you asked before about what kept you going, you're a product of that. How could I have stopped when there was so much growth and people were appreciative of what we were doing? So I have to thank you, because it inspired me to keep pushing when maybe sometimes I didn't.
I think for both of us is we are here to spread positivity and to inspire others.
1,000,000%, and right now more than ever the world needs it.
I totally agree with that. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you soon when lockdown's over.
You will. Bye for now.
Bye.
But we don't talk anymore.